What's good, YouTube? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back welcoming you to the post-fight show with Stormybman for this Saturday, July 31st, 2021. And we're doing the post-fight show talking about the DAZN and the Fox television broadcast of the fights of this day. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate everyone coming out, and those of you who have come from KQKC's station, I'm glad to have you with me here this evening. Those of you who are just tuning in because you tune in for some boxing talk, thank you as well for tuning in. And we're going to talk a little bit about the fight cards that took place today. I won't carry you too long. I do believe I may be going it alone this evening, so I won't tarry too long with this whole ordeal. We had a chance to see two network broadcasts of boxing today, and for some of you with short attention spans, it may not have been a good day of boxing, but for those who just like to check the matches out, this was one of those days where you had a chance to tune in long and in depth for the broadcast that we were able to witness. So let me start off by welcoming some of the family that's out there in the chat. I know that the marker has moved a little bit. Sometimes when it moves, I'm not able to scroll all the way up to see the very first comments. But we're going to try to do this and see where I can start off, because the graphics, they work with us sometimes and sometimes they don't. Okay, there was someone out there at the very top, and I can't see it because we got the poll for the chat out there. But I'll start with Dwayne Jones saying, "Bless up from Atlanta. Kofi ain't nothing," he says. And Big Texas Cletus is out there. He says, "Let's get it." He says, "Stormy, I guess you're trying to say I need a wrench, family." Yeah, well, hang tight, huh? Because I don't do them by request. I do them by people who show up and show support and everything. And, you know, that's how it's done. So, you know, especially for people who support my channel. You know what I mean? And support don't always just mean listening and looking and lurking. You know, supporting is being there for me, being there, showing Stormy some love. And you guys, I'm gonna be perfectly honest when it comes to that. Nobody hardly shows Stormy too much love on that super chat there. And I don't shake people down for anything, but it's like, you know what? I seen people that produce far worse boxing conversation, and you guys kind of throw coins at them relentlessly. You know what I mean? So I don't know what that's all about, but I digress. Andrew Charles is out there. He says, "Salute, Stormy B, man. Salute to you." We got Set the Tone Blast is out there. Says, "Yes, sir." DT is out there. Channel member DT says, "Salute, Stormy B, man," and everyone in the chat. My man Watcher is out there. Says, "When you enter a Stormy chat, you got the rain and the thunder. Get me my umbrella." That's right. And don't stand under no trees, because you know what happens when you stand under trees in the storm, huh? And Demetrius Bright is out there. Says, "Salute, family." And let's see here. I'm trying to adjust this. It doesn't want to adjust on me. Watcher says, "I didn't see the fight, so I'm listening in, Sensei." Appreciate you, Watcher. Watcher is always one of the brothers that's out here showing a lot of love and support and also providing information as well. So, that's my man, Watcher there. Appreciate you, Watch. Michael James 616 is out there with us. Says, as Stormybman, salute family, salute to you. Curtis Price says, a very good night of boxing. He says, right on. Xavier the boxing nerd has joined us and says, liking and commenting. I appreciate you, Xavier. Bruce Goes, channel members out there, says, salute to Stormy B Man, my bro, salute to you. Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens is out there. He should be on here with me, but he left me hanging, y'all. You see how Reggie do, Stormy, the OG. Just push the OG out there in the room in a wheelchair and close the door behind him. That's how he do me. And Michael James 616 says, Darrell looks strong tonight. Michigan in the building. And he says, smash the like button. Yes, sir. Thank you for that. Smash that like button as we get ready to go in. Hey, man, we can start with the Darrell fight because that was the last fight of the evening. And we definitely saw Darrell in, shaking it out a little bit. He hadn't been in the ring in a while. My man Tyrone is out there in the chat. He says, salute everyone. Salute to you. He says, everyone put a couple of bucks on Granados. Whenever the fight goes down, he's a 10-1. Can't pass it up. And Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens says, I'm going to be on after the Bellator MMA fight. Let's go, AJ McKee. Look at that. See, Reggie's talking about, going to another sport on me. See that? That's the kind of loyalty you get out here these days, going over there to MMA. Let me tell you something, Reggie. I'll probably be done by the time those fools get through kicking and chopping on each other and biting each other's ears over there in the MMA. Okay? But yeah, Darrell had been out for a little bit, and this was an opportunity for him to get out there and shake out the cobwebs. But his opponent, Mr. Brooker, mispronouncing his name. Chris Brooker didn't look to pose any real threat. And it's unfortunate that had to be the last fight you saw of the evening, though I believe that was a fight that occurred earlier on the undercard and they just showed it to us later. I think that when they do things like that, it's because those other sport broadcasts that they had time slotted for the airtime, and they do that to, fill the gaps, I guess. But back to the Darrell fight. Darrell looked like he was ready to rumble in there, but Mr. Brooker didn't. And that being the difference at the end of the day, you could tell, he just wasn't up to the level of Brooker that Darrell was bringing on this evening. It was kind of anticlimactic, However, he got a couple of rounds in. What did they go? Just a couple of rounds, really. What I didn't like was Chris Brooker never tried to establish a jab. He was moving away and feinting and kind of moving his shoulders a bit, but he wasn't doing much to stave off a possible attack by, Andre Darrell. And that's the thing. When a fighter, and you guys have heard me, if you heard me give fight breakdowns before, I always talk about a guy who is fighting from behind. He's like the second guy to do something. You throw a punch, he throw a punch. You step forward, he step back. He didn't try to do anything to assert himself. And he got rolled over at the end of the day. That was basically what it is. You know what I'm saying? So We got Pool Counter Boxing out there. He says, "What's good, Stormy B man? What's good with you?" So that ended up being, the wrap up. And shortly before that, we had some heavyweights, Norman Neely and Juan Torres. Man, that fight was scheduled for 6 rounds, but the way they performed, there should have been a 4-rounder because both men didn't look in the best of condition, and pardon me, their skill set left a lot to be desired. I watched them, and I just didn't like the energy that Mr. Neely brought to the ring, even though he had a lot of supporters there. Matter of fact, it looked like after he fought, they all left. But he fought very amateurish, and Mr. Torres wasn't much better, but was there to give him rounds, I could say. But just on general principle, he was woefully out of shape. And where was the determination from Neely to go to the body? Because it would look like every time he was banging him to the gut, that guy was ready to stop. A couple of times he claimed being hit low when it wasn't low. He had extra long trunks on and rose the waistband far up over his stomach. So it's like, come on, man. In boxing, you could get away with a lot of things, but you can't hide that belly. You know what I'm saying? And Neely should be ashamed of himself for not going after it. But like I said, they both fought highly amateurish, and that's the reason why that fight and the fight card, it became somewhat lackluster. We should have been able to see those fights before the main event, because the main event did turn out to be a surprise and an upset, where we had the heavyweights, Michael Coffey and Jonathan Rice. Man, this was supposed to be a showcase for Michael Coffey on this day, and his original opponent, Gerald Washington, had to pull out of the fight just days before due to contracting C-19. So it's like, okay, in steps Mr. Rice, who we've seen on Fox on undercards before. But on this night, Mr. Rice came and performed, and lo and behold, people, he pulled off the upset. He upset Michael Coffey and stopped him in the 5th round after a series of punishing shots that were landing clean. I mean, he was pounding Michael with these shots, and his jab was working very well. He has a long reach, and he was able to get that jab in there, and it made Coffey very uncomfortable. The thing about it was, Coffey, being the guy who was brought in and was supposed to be the showcase fighter, never tried to match jab output. And that was his downfall, because the jab sets up everything, man. And if you don't try to establish your jab, you're going to be fighting from behind. And that's what he found himself doing. He tried to posture and give somewhat of a, his reflection was, he was trying to pretend like he was okay, but he was taking shots cleanly, family. And the thing about it is, when you take shots cleanly from a big man, a big heavyweight, the damage that's being done and what it does to you physically, it drains you. And instead of moving his head, Kofi fought this fight a lot like Danny Dubois fought Joe Joyce. He was there in front of the bigger, stronger guy with a reach, and he didn't do anything. He didn't try to move his head. He didn't try to get his own jab going, because even if someone has a great jab, you jab with them and jab before them and after them to offset the jab, to create a disruption of them sustaining any type of rhythm. And that's what he didn't do. And I'm surprised that there was not the type of instruction coming from his corner to encourage him to do that. Now, when you're fresh, yeah, you could take a shot or two, but you don't want to take too many of them. And boy, was he taking those shots. I remember after seeing the first round, I was like, man, this might not end well for Kofi, because unless he makes some adjustments. And guess what, people? He didn't make the adjustments. He was out there. He was there to be hit. And by round 3, at the end of round 3 or early round 4, one of his eyes began to swell. You can't do that. You can't go out there and be getting hit clean with shots like this guy was taking them. You just can't do that. Let's see. We got 88 Sports Talk out there. He says, what's good, Stormybman and Reggie? Reggie ain't here, bro. He over there with those MMA dudes over there. He done found some new friends on us tonight. TS Boxing says, what was that bargain bin shoulder roll Kofi was doing? He looked out of shape. I don't know that he was out of shape, other than he wasn't mentally prepared to deal with someone being tough. Remember, the original opponent was supposed to be Gerald Washington. And Gerald Washington has put on some performances as of recent that he hasn't offered the stiffest of challenges. So maybe Kofi still had Mr. Washington in mind, and he didn't change his focus for who ended up being in there with him tonight. TS, yeah, I read that. And Bruce Gold says, longest reach in the heavyweight division. Michael James 616 said, that fool wouldn't move his head for nothing. No, right? And guess what? If someone don't move their head, try your best to knock it off. Huh? That's what the old school coaches teach. Oh, he ain't gonna move it. Move it for him. Snap, 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 right hand. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what happened. When he went to his corner after the bout was stopped, he showed all types of emotion, like, man, this, he was upset. But you can't be upset with nobody but yourself, dude. You spend time in the gym. Where are you refining technique? Where are you refining skills? Where are you refining the fact that everybody that you get in there with, and just because you ball your fists up and you hit them hard, they ain't going to fall. Everybody ain't going to do that. You know what I mean? This man came out tonight, Mr. Rice, and the way he boxed with a little apprehension. He wasn't even following through on his punches. He was basically punching like, keep away from me. But imagine had he come there to knock you out, he would have really battered you. And someone needs to get a hold of Mr. Rice, pull him in that gym and say, hey, man, we can do some things, because he has some ability. And that jab was working, and he throws his right hand behind the jab the correct way. It's just that he wasn't trying to get too close, and I enjoyed watching him beat on the guy. But it says a lot about the heavyweight division right now. We have some holes in the heavyweight division just ready to be filled with some talent as soon as some people decide to brush up on skills and come out there and do their best. The opportunity is wide open. The landscape is wide open in the heavyweight division. There are about 4 or 5 guys around the top, and then everything else is up for grabs. So why don't these men get their butts in the gym and get in shape? Because I still said after watching Jonathan Rice's performance tonight, he's a very big man, but he's still probably carrying about 20 pounds of excess weight. He could get that excess weight off and really be in better condition, and someone can get a hold of him and start working on technique. Yeah, he's at an advanced age. I think he's 30 plus years old, but at the same time, in the heavyweight division, sometimes that's just, moderate. You just getting going because you don't have to cut weight, So it was a good fight for TV. And if you were tuning in, you would know who was supposed to be the headliner and who not. Because the man who was the headliner, Michael Coffey, he didn't fight like the headliner. And Mr. Rice came out. Remember, he walked to the ring. He didn't have no robe on or nothing. He was ready to go. And he performed. I take my hat off to him, man. I like to see upsets like that. You know what I mean? And reward the guy with another fight. Maybe he can become Mr. Upset with what he does out there. It was very interesting to see that fight. Let me see. Going back to some comments. Watcher was asking how long is his reach. It's at least 84 inches. It's at least 84. It might be a little longer. I forget what the tail of the tape said, and I don't have that information in front of me. Pull Counter says, George Foreman used to always say, you got to have a jab. That's right, and it doesn't matter what weight class you're in. You need a jab out there. Bruce Gold says his jab is 81 inches, okay? Watcher says Fury got 85, excuse me. Ajaba has like an 88-inch reach. Yeah, but Ajaba is like, it takes his punches about a couple of days to land. Unless you're sparring with Tyson Fury, preparing for Deontay Wilder. Then your punches land right away, and so does Fury's ass to the canvas. Okay. Let's see. Andrew Charles says, Reggie watching wrestling. Yeah, man, he betrayed us, man. Over there with the MMA folks, man. You know I'm going to roast you on that, Reggie, because we do boxing over here. TS says, did you see Rice screaming after the win? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Yeah, he appears to be a character, right, with his personality. Some people you don't need to put the microphone in front of because they will, break your heart. 88 Sports Talk says, Reggie Owens, bro, done switched up on us. Yeah. Bruce Gold says his arm length is even more longer. Single arm length. Yeah. Pull Counter says Michael Coffey is 35 and only has 13 fights. He started late. Yeah, that's fine. But even in starting late, somebody ain't never told him how to move his head, that he better move his head or he's going to get knocked off in the gym. I'm telling you, man, a lot of these trainers, bro, a lot of them. And it's God's honest truth. A lot of these trainers, you're going to put a guy out there like that. That fight went almost exactly like the Joe Joyce Dubois fight, with the exception of Dubois was actually throwing shots at Joe Joyce. Coffey wasn't throwing shots very much. And it seemed like he became very apprehensive to throw shots after the end of that first round when Rice was landing the two-piece. I think in the second round, he threw it like 3 times in a row. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and they all landed. dude, you got to get your hands up. You got to block something. You got to slip something. You got to bob and weave. That's not just something that looks good on TV, on the movies. You got to do that to keep yourself safe. And in the heavyweight division, one punch can end it all, right? In the heavyweight division. But you saw this guy going in, trying to, he was trying to look confident and assure himself, but he didn't know what to do. And every time he went back to that corner, they were not helping him one little bit. Lo and behold, we got my man Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens out there. I guess he decided to come on and said that kickboxing can wait. What's going on with you, Reggie? How you doing?
No, I ain't saying kickboxing can wait. I'm going to say AJ McKee with the first round chokeout, new champion, LA represent, young black champion over MMA Bellator. What's happening, everybody?
It ended early? Oh, okay.
he beat a legend easily.
I was just talking stuff because you told me earlier you was going to be over there watching it. It just gave me a moment to talk some stuff. That's all. But I'm glad you're here. We're talking about that heavyweight fight, Reggie. Listen, man. This fight went, and I say it one more time, it went exactly like the Danny Dubois-Joe Joyce fight. Kofi didn't move his head for nothing, and Rice was knocking it off. If the ref didn't intervene, he might have knocked that dude's head into the third row. He would not move his head. What were your thoughts on it?
And my thoughts on it, I'm going to be honest, man. I did not see Rice even being competitive in this fight. I was hoping he would come in there, give it his all, be competitive. I was thinking, before seeing the bell even ring, that Coffey was going to go in here and do what he's been doing to guys, and that's getting these knockouts. Once the fight started, all that changed when I seen the first punch landed. I'm like, oh, Coffey don't like getting hit back. I said, that may be a problem. And it froze Coffey right in his tracks. Coffey didn't give anything in that first round. Rice landed his punches, move out the way, landed those punches. He's rolling over a nice jab. And I was like, Coffey one of these bullying type. He like throwing off the big leather and landing it, but he hasn't been in here with somebody who's returned something like that. Going in that second round, he came out there very aggressive, tried to loosen up, walking forward at Rice. He was throwing off his punches, throwing off them big hooks. Rice was moving out the way of some of them very well, but when Rice landed one nice punch, I watched Coffey do that one thing with his face again, where he didn't like it. Almost like how Tio was acting when Lomachenko was tagging him with punches. Coffey doing that same thing, doing it through his face expressions. And then I began to see Rice starting to smile at him. Rice was like, I got this kid.
Yeah.
Rice kept landing those jabs. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing. I was like, yeah, I saw that look on his face too when Rice was smiling at him and everything. He was going, man. He got into that rhythm and he just kept it going.
Yeah, he found a stake in there when he seen Coffey do that. And then I think it went into the third round where he popped Coffey, and Coffey said, damn, Coffey made a mistake by making those statements kind of under his breath, but not realizing it's written over in his face. Like he's making the statements with his mouth, like he's saying, damn. Then he doing this twist every time a punch lands. And then it was something else that happened in that round. It cleared out of my mind, but he made it. He made that statement of damn. The look on his face. Oh, he began to tire. That's what happened. He began to show that he was tired. His mouth was hanging open. Rice began to smile even more. I think Rice even started probably taunting and talking to him. Then it was just like a clean sweep. It was nothing that Coffey can do. Then Coffey, when he made the mistake, because he fought in southpaw, when he switched over to the orthodox stance, in the way that he stands with that lead arm down, that's when I was like, man, Lennox Lewis, this all day. Rice can go right into Lennox Lewis, jab with the right hand right behind it. And he started to catch this guy. And he worked well to Coffey's body, punched Coffey up real well. And I'm always leery on top of that, Stormy, when I see fighters that fight at home. Because I thought Coffey was from Alabama. I don't know why I thought he was from Alabama. And I'm not realizing this is his hometown. And I was like, man, I'm always iffy about that. What kind of preparation did he get in? How much did he play too much into family and friends, wanting to get tickets, him celebrating, being overhyped? A lot of fighters always want to return home, and it doesn't look good for them a lot of times. That's why you get where when fights don't look good for them, for hometown fighters, you get judges that still fights for them. I don't think that's a place. Sometimes they think it's a comfort zone, and sometimes being comfortable ain't the best situation to be in. And it showed. And then when he makes this mistake of switching over to orthodox, he was leaving his whole face open. And Rice saw it. Rice saw that target all day. He was just licking his chops, man. And he got the 10 off on Coffee. You see, Coffee can't really take a punch. And hey, Rice did what he's supposed to do. I'm mad that I didn't put no money on it, but like I stated, I thought that Coffee was going to here and knock this late replacement out. This late replacement came in there, believed in himself, showed he wasn't going to come in here and lay down. I like his post fight where he spoke, where he made some real statements. Man, that was a brilliant post fight speech that he gave off, and he also gave props to Devin Haney in him. So I don't know if he's working around in that group or being inspired by these younger fighters. But great victory. Coffee just got to go back to the drawing board. I think he needs to shed some of that muscle. He's too muscular. He looks like a weightlifter, and that ain't gonna work in this sport. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah, great breakdown, man. And you know, when a guy goes out and tries, now see, here we have a situation where he was brought in as a late replacement, and he didn't play Andrew Yildirim, right? He didn't lay down. He went out to try to win. Now, as you stated, he did get a little bit winded and everything. He took some shots that he didn't like or whatever, but he kept pressing on. And when he let his hands go, something was happening. I'm telling you, the only thing that beats a try is a heartbeat. And if you have a heartbeat, you can try. Let me tell you, I was so happy for the guy. I love when underdogs are able to achieve something, and when people who need a lesson get shown and taken to school. And in this night, Coffee was taken to school. And it's a bad lesson to learn under the lights. You could have learned some of that before you got under the lights. And it's just something we speak about it all the time. Just because a guy punch hard and he could ball his fist, it don't mean everybody that you hit out there is just going to lay down for you. Man, there are fighters out there, when you hit them hard, it makes their adrenaline get pumping and they fight harder. You know what I mean? It's like, look at Evander Holyfield. When people were, the people who tried to knock Evander Holyfield out always got beat up worse. It's the guys who went out there to box him that had success against him, because when you try to knock him out or something, that adrenaline get going in him, and he's like he's being challenged, and so he rises to meet your challenge. There are a lot of fighters like that. There are a lot of personalities like that. You ever known a person that doesn't like to lose or won't go home until the card game turns in his favor or the dominoes game? It's people like that, man. They say Michael Jordan was like that in gambling. You know, he be losing his shirt, but he'll stay until he wins. You know, it's like there are people like that in life. And so when you know that going in, you make a proper assessment by evaluating where you can pick your spots. Hats off to Jonathan Rice, man. He pulled off an upset tonight, and I want to see him back in there and with another opportunity. Salute to the guy. I didn't catch his post-fight, Reggie, so I would like to see if I could catch that. If it's on YouTube or something by tomorrow or Sunday evening or something like that, I'd like to check that out. But yeah, good fight with him. The fight that happened immediately after that, the super lightweights with Carl Dargan and Ivan Delgado, that was a pretty good fight too. These two guys, they were super lightweights, and we saw something in this fight where Delgado looked like he wanted to challenge Carl, you know, and listen, he gave that boy one of those, Reggie, I now coin it the Tank Davis uppercut. Man, that uppercut took all the fight out of that dude. Did you see that fight?
No, that's the one I end up catching that highlight on. I caught that highlight on Instagram. Man,
he caught him. That was in that third round, man. He hit that dude with the blow of death, because the guy was coming in very aggressive, you know, throwing hard shots and everything. And Dargan was like trying to block, but he was watching the whole time. Then he said, "Forget this." Threw that uppercut. I could have sworn he knocked some teeth out of that guy's mouth, because I don't know. I know sometimes spit flies from the mouthpiece and stuff like that, but I could have sworn those were some teeth that came out of that guy's mouth. And he went down. He was in bad shape because his legs was real stiff when he hit the canvas. Anytime, and I'll tell you guys this, watch a fighter when he gets dropped. If a fighter gets dropped and his legs bend or whatever, he's okay. But when a fighter drops and his legs are stiff like wooden planks, and forgive me for laughing, because I always find it funny, man, because when you see that, it's over pretty much. Now, he did get up. He rose from that knockdown, but it was the beginning of the end. And after that, you know, Dargan just went in there and continued to wail on him until, you know, and I remarked in KQ's chat, I said, the dude, he hit that boy so hard that he was looking on the ground on the canvas for some change, but he know damn well he came to the fight with no money. So it was funny to me. So it was a good knockout, Reggie. Another highlight reel knockout. We got some comments out here in the chat. The Troll Killer, Mr. Shelton's out there. Salute. Jeff, the producer, is out there. Salute to you, Jeff, producer. He says facts. And salute to Storm and Reggie. He says great example with Holyfield. Yeah. And Pool Counter says I was about to say that. Troll Killer was asking who won. I think we just broke that down for you. Dwayne Jones says Rice should get the winner of the Kaunaki Helenius rematch. Hey, man, whoever gets in there with that dude, they better be ready to watch out for a dangerous 1-2, because he got one. Just like I was complimenting Joe Joyce with that 1-2, this kid got one too. Now, wouldn't it be crazy to see him and Joe Joyce? That'll be Frankenstein versus the Mummy. You know, that's what we could call that one. I don't know. But Mac of the South says salute. 88 Sports Talk says that uppercut was serious. C99 is laughing. Dre Finest is saying salute, Stormy B Man. Michael James 616 says that was funny, Stormy. And he says when your legs go stiff, you're unconscious. That's right, man. That's they had a term that they used to say, rigor mortis. I don't know. I just find it funny when them guys' legs go stiff. It's just funny to me, Reggie. I can't stop laughing at that stuff. But, yeah, they had an earlier fight with welterweights. We saw the return of Vito Melnicki, and he took on Noah Kidd. Now, that fight right there, it was originally supposed to be Vito taking on James Martin, who had defeated him in a previous fight. They were supposed to have a rematch, but apparently Martin didn't make weight, Reggie. And So Vito and his people were like, nah, we're not going to fight him. So they took on Noah Kid. And it turned out the better for Mielnicki because he looked good in beating this guy who didn't look like he belonged in there with him. So at least he got another win under his belt. Were you able to see that fight at all?
Yeah, man, I was laughing like a mug watching that dude Noah Kid, man. I thought I was watching Let's Do It Again, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he did fight like old boy Jimmy Walker in that movie.
Yeah, he like Booney Farnsworth, man.
But Vito, I'm going to tell you something. He's very limited. And he's more limited than the other kid, Joey Spencer, who ended up fighting James Martin. I don't know. It's funny, Reggie. These guys, they want to become boxers, right? But who's teaching these guys? They have to learn how to use the skill set. No jabs, just leaping in with power punches and stuff like that. It's like, they are, I don't know, man. And I'm not trying to, rain on them or anything, but it's just I could see the limits on them. It's like they're not going to go very far if they don't have the tools of the trade. They just will not go far, man. You know what I mean? Salute to Tay Jones out there. He says, cards to me was pretty good. Yeah. Hey, man, they were good. They were entertaining. We cannot deny that. And Tay, what did you think about the the heavyweight fight between Kofi and Rice? Man, that dude wouldn't move his head out of the way of those punches for nothing, and he got stopped. You could think you're strong, but there's always a stronger person, right? There's always another guy, But, yeah, Reggie, any other comments on Vito and his fight with Noah?
In that one, man, I got to go slightly against what you were stating, man. I can't state about the limits. I thought he adjusted well to this awkward dude. I thought he did the necessary things to get his punches in there. Him being 19, I think he's going to develop. It was just that this guy made an ugly fight, and Vitor made the adjustments. Let this kid know, you want to be rough and ugly, I'm going to be rough and ugly with you. And he began to get in there, bang. He landed the shot that ultimately turned his fight around and kind of put this dude in his place where the guy started to want to hold, and then eventually got him up out of there, landed solid shots to rock and hurt the dude. Joey Spencer, he looked good in his fight. I can't take nothing away from him, except I don't like the way that he lunges. I think he needs a better variety because it's almost like he kept doing that lunge left hook, nothing followed behind it. He'll throw the lunge left hook, step back, shoot a jab down to the body. I think Joey has to mix up a little bit better, but he looked very sharp in his fight. I can't discount it, except he did fade out, and his father even brought that up coming out of round 6. I think the father brought that up, or it might have been 7, whatever round that was, where he got into an exchange with Martin, and his father said, "Man, don't be out there doing that. You ain't got the legs under you." And I was like, "What? He ain't got the legs up under him?" And then you begin to see why the father stated that. And Joey in that 8th round kind of faded out, so he has to work on that. Because Joey looks a little bit thick, and I don't know how much cardio they're implementing in there because he looked a little too bulky. He has to be able to go a little bit longer, or in 8-round fights, he shouldn't be fading like that. And the pace wasn't that fast. It wasn't that heavy of a pace for him to be able to move up into becoming a 10-round fighter. Right now, he's probably a 6 and 8-round fighter just based on cardio. I think he has to improve that. The dude I got to give Martin credit for, I think that's his last name, Martin, was the fact that he never, even though he was getting tagged and outreacted, Joey looked very quick and sharp, was the fact that he kept coming forward and trying things to move forward. Even he tried to do the switching of stance. He went out of, I think he started as southpaw orthodox, whatever it was. He began to switch kind of later in the fight as he couldn't figure things out in the original stance he was in. and it still didn't really work for him. But he kept fighting. He never gave up on himself. He kept trying, but it just didn't work. But that's my thoughts on it. They young fighters. Joey may have to move away from his father. They may have to bring someone else in for Joey, because there's something they're not doing in training, because he shouldn't have been tired in that fight. He should not have been faded like that. He wasn't throwing that much volume. He wasn't being pressed that hard by the other guy. They just have to implement something with that. More active on his punch combinations. He has to be more than a single puncher. Vito, I think, is going to be okay. Vito's still young. I think they're going to implement things. And maybe he'll move into some other camp. Maybe he'll travel somewhere else outside of Jersey, or find one of the trainers who can bring in new things for him, because he's very young. So I think he'll tool up. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and let me say this about those two guys, Joey and Vito. I am not trying to take anything away from the young men. Okay, they're in a sport where if you don't learn certain subtle things, your career is going to end up very rough. It's going to be a rough go for you. And both of them could benefit from the use of a jab. They could. And when you saw Joey leaping in with those hooks and everything, maybe he did something in the gym, and the people working with him were like, oh, yeah, that looks good. Do that again. But you're not Roy Jones Jr., bro. And a good fighter will catch you. They will time you and knock your head off. You need to learn to jab, and you need to learn to hook off of the jab, because learning to hook off of the jab will allow you to give another fighter a different look, so that they can't tell what punch is coming. You see, they don't know if you're jabbing, or you're jabbing to hook off the jab, or if you're going to throw the hook. You see, but you have to add that to the repertoire. You can't start with the powerful stuff first, because even if that gets in against lesser opposition or whatever, when you get in there with people who are better equipped and better adept to deal with what you have to offer, they can turn that up against you, you know? And that's all I was saying. The thing is, for tonight, they both had good efforts, great efforts. And that's tonight. Very good that they came out with victories, and salute to them. But going forward, they both are going to have to work on some things, because it'll get more difficult. They're not going to always be able to find guys who will fight with their hands tied. And Martin fought tonight like with his hands tied. I don't know what that was, with the rolling of the shoulders and coming forward, but not even letting his hands go. And then when he did let his hands go, he was so far behind Joey that Joey gained more confidence, that he started talking crap to him and everything, because it was like, I don't know, maybe the guy has reached his limit talking about Martin, because he did look like a person that was shot. You could be shot and not having had a lot of fights. You could be shot from overtrained in the gym. You could be shot from like, too many fights in a row, or not enough time in between fights, or having time off, or letting your body recover, or something like that. He looked like a spent cartridge out there. And Joey was doing some things to him that that just shouldn't have happened, not over and over and over again. So here you go. But again, tonight was a great night for both of them to get victories, and they look good. Their fan base can celebrate that and everything, but I would like to see them go back to the gym and work on some things. I didn't hear that part that you said, Reggie, about Spencer's camp saying in the corners that his legs wasn't under him or whatever, but that's kind of interesting too. And if his legs wasn't under him, that might have been because he might have had some ladies under him. You know what I'm saying? And you again, all of that can affect you too. There's a lot of people that's out there, oh, I don't believe in that old wives' tale. And, old trainers used to say that. Listen, man, listen, the more that you discipline yourself from the desires and you wait until after you have your performance, the better equipped and adept you'll be to deal with what's at hand. It takes a mighty disciplined person to be able to overcome that in a different manner. But, this is all a part of it. But yeah, the guys fought well. They got their victories. And hey, PBC put on a card tonight for television that there was a lot of, there was some pounding of the flesh. So overall, like Tay Jones said, it was a good card, a lot of action, from different, and we saw different types of action. So I was pleased with that overall. I don't know how much of it you were able to catch, Reggie, but I pretty much caught, what was televised, even though I had some issue with, it's like I had a slight buffering problem that slowed me down a little bit, but I still was able to see everything.
Salute to the great Al Heyman. That's what I like to say all the time. The brother man put on a great fight card. Salute to the great Al Heyman. Hey, that main event on that DAZN card was a pretty good fight right there too.
Yeah, take us on into that, because I know you put up a video up on it. So just kick it off with, well, first, before you kick that off, how much of the DAZN card did you see?
I just caught that fight right there.
Okay, well, go ahead and kick that off for us, because like I said, I know you put a video out on it, that featherweight bout that took place between Zhu Khan and Leigh Wood, that for the WBA regular championship, featherweight championship. I had seen some interviews with both guys going in, and it was going to be interesting. I know that Zhu Khan was a Chinese guy. He's coming on. He's been off for 2 years, okay, coming into this fight. And I didn't get the full details of why he was off for so long. But I do know that Leigh Wood was coming in, and he was being trained by Ben Davison. So, hats off to Ben Davison for the performance of his fighter tonight. But go ahead, Reggie, and take us into that fight.
Oh, I think that might tell it right there. I didn't know he was out for 2 years, and that could be what ended up causing a flip in this fight, because early on in the fight, he started out good, man. His defense was everything. It was hard for Leigh Woods to even penetrate with anything. He really couldn't get anything land solidly. This guy covered up nice, towards the center, from his head all the way down to the belt line. He covered good, and even from the sides, it was hard for Leigh to land anything. He was landing good shots, jabs up to the body and everything. Even in that first round, I seen Leigh Woods hurt 3 times in that first round. He was hurt early. He began to grab. He was holding on a lot. That first time he got hurt, I thought he was hurt pretty bad. That referee stepped in there and was trying to give Zhu Khan some instructions on what not to do, giving Woods a little bit more time. Then he ended up catching Woods again, hurting him for the second time. Then Woods would hold on. Woods did a great job holding on. Then he get hurt a third time in that round. It moves on to that second round. Woods come in there. He landed a nice uppercut, followed by a series of body shots in that second round. He landed some good counters, but it just wasn't enough. What's the name fought everywhere in that round. Sorry about that. That round I gave to Woods, but Zhu was working well. Even in the clinch, he'll work through the clinch, punching through. But he got hurt. He got hurt with an uppercut landed by Woods. So Woods was able to hurt Zhu Khan. Then I had it from round 3 all the way to 5. I just had Zhu Khan out working Woods. Woods really couldn't land anything. He'll land 1 or 2 nice hooks or something. He'd be able to get a punch in, but they were just too far in between punches he was able to land. But from round 6, he changed something up. He made an adjustment that worked for him, and it was him fighting off the back foot, him jabbing, backing up, allowing Zhu Khan to walk forward into these jabs. So he was pulling Zhu Khan into his work off of that jab. His back off the back foot, being busy with the jab. He was picking his shots, landing nice shots on Zhu Khan. In that 6th round, Zhu Khan really didn't throw anything, and that's kind of where things shifted. But then Zhu Khan, I gave that 7th round to, based on Lay going away from what he did in the 6th round, and he really didn't give off anything. His offense wasn't there. He just got away from what he was doing, but then he returns to it in rounds 8 through 11. And that's kind of where the momentum began to shift towards the middle of this fight. He went back to working off that jab, backing up, working the jab, landing a few hooks in there, and he began to tire up. He began to freeze up Zhu Khan, and Zhu Khan slowed down a lot in that fight. And that's when we spoke about that 2-year thing. That probably could have affected him towards this moment in the fight, because he fought well from rounds 1 through 5. Everything looked good for him, but then he began to fade, and Lay just began to work him, bring the fight to him, still working off that back foot, off the jab, then working forward at him. Then it came down, because at that moment from up to round 10, I had it as an even fight. Then in round 11, I had Lay go up by 1 point. Khan needed this final round, and that final round went bad for Khan when they both throwing hooks at the same time. This was a beautiful placed punch, as they both throwing off right hooks together. Leif gets his punch right on the button. It drops Khan. And that was bad business for Khan right there. Khan gets up, makes the count, fight resumes, and Woods went for the kill and ends up getting Khan up out of there, becoming the champion as the ref stops it. So that was a beautiful fight that I watched right there. Beautiful fight and the great swing and momentum right there. But that's my thoughts with that.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see how the fight played out in the last quarter, right? The last 4 rounds, because earlier I had given a lot of the rounds to Khan, because he was dictating the tempo and pace of the fight, even though Wood was doing a couple of nice things in there. I still feel like Zhu Khan was making the fight. But in those last 4 rounds, you could kind of see Wood coming on, and there were some vulnerabilities happening where it might have been a loss of focus. I don't know. And like you may have suggested, maybe the layoff, but he ran into some difficulty. And when he got dropped, I think that just took all the fight out of him right there, because he had nothing when he got back up, and Wood started going in, and he wasn't fighting back. He didn't have the wherewithal to hold or try to tie the man up or anything. He just kind of submitted against the ropes and was cowering up, but he was done, and as a champion caliber fighter, because he did enter the bout as the champion, you don't like to see the champion do that and wither like that. So it's like, maybe he thought that the opponent, in this case it was Wood, maybe he thought that being tough and showing them some toughness early and midway through the fight, that would be enough to carry him through. But it's obvious that Wood was able to deal with what he had to offer, and then got him in trouble and finished him. So it's like, there you go. Boxing is the theater of the unexpected. You could see one guy being strong in one manner and then see him being weak in another, and vice versa. So it played out before our eyes in this particular fight. I remember I'm sitting there watching the fight, and salute to my man Laws D. He was doing a live stream, and he asked me to come on with him, and I'm watching the fight, and I'm on the stream with him, but I'm watching, and I'm like, there's a shift in this fight taking place, and I noticed that Wood was doing this little thing, like, you see some of the fighters do especially from the UK, they kind of paw with that left, keep that hand out there to, keep a guy at a certain range and look to pot shot and do. And Khan didn't have no tactic to counter that. He just was coming in behind the high guard and letting loose volumes of shots. But I kind of guess what I'm trying to say is I question his ring IQ. It's like there are nights when you can get in there and show your bravado, but there are other nights where you have to show, and most nights you have to show your intelligence. And he kind of crumbled and fell off in that area to me, Reggie.
They said it again, OG. My sound had went up.
No, I said that Khan, there are some nights that you could show bravado and be brazen in there, but most nights you have to show intelligence. And to me, he kind of fell off in that department tonight, with his performance. Zhu Khan, he fell off in that department. So that's what I had to say.
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely he did fall off. And he fell off steep towards it. And like I was saying, in that second half of the fight, and like you were saying, he didn't do nothing but kind of really cover up. He didn't give back anything. And it was Woods nights after that. And like I say, I didn't see anything that caused that, but possibly when you brought the 2-year layoff, I wonder if that bothered him or not. Did he have enough gas to continue forward? And especially he wasn't able to hurt Woods following that first round. So I don't know if he threw himself out. And Woods started to come on strong. So I wonder if that bothered him.
Yeah. And the fight before that was a cruiserweight fight where we saw cruiserweights Tommy McCarthy taking on Chris Billum-Smith. And McCarthy is a black Irishman. He's from Ireland. He's a black man from Ireland. So I guess he's a black Irishman. And Billum-Smith was out there, and from the opening rounds, he was really taking the fight to McCarthy. And McCarthy came in. He had a loss on his record already, but what I noticed about him was from round to round, his focus was off. He had come out one round, he's dancing on his toes, he's jabbing and doing some things that are positive. Then in the very next round, he'll fight that round like he never did the positive things. And he's just like letting the guy tee off on him. It was a weird fight that saw Billum-Smith winning a unanimous decision. But there were moments in the fight where McCarthy had some success, and had he just followed up and had more intensity, it could have been a closer fight, if not even an opportunity to win for McCarthy. Some of these guys, it's like you have to question, like, where are their brains at? It's like you're out there and you just shut down mentally. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're doing something good again. It's almost like if you were floating in the pool and you fell asleep and you feel yourself sinking under the water and you wake up because the water's going in your nose and your mouth and everything. So you wake up and and next thing you know, you drift off to sleep again. It's like, what the? And that's what it's like in the sport of boxing. When you see these guys, you're engaged in combat. You have to do some things. And I don't know. And he got an unnecessary cut over his eye and on his cheek from being in close with Billum-Smith and head clashes and stuff like that. It's like, man, are you going to learn how to keep your head out of there? But we see it. And you see these guys perform, and a lot of times the corners, like, they weren't telling McCarthy Keep the fight in the center of the ring. Stop going back toward the ropes. Because even when you go back toward the ropes and the guy's not landing clean shots on you, it looks effective. But you're blocking and catching a lot of stuff. But stop giving him that good look by being in that position. Go back to the center of the ring where he has to tactically and calculatingly look to work at you. It's not the same where you make it easy when you up against the ropes. That's a simple instruction that he never got from his corner. It's like, come on, man. You're watching this stuff and they really make it difficult. And I don't want to see McCarthy anymore. I know they'll be bringing him back, but I don't want to see him anymore.
Yeah, no, I didn't catch any of the other fights on there. What did Ricky Hatton's son look like?
Boring. He fought a 4-rounder and he won all the rounds. He was in there with a kid named Leskowski, and he was just kind of like Energizer, you know, throwing a lot of punches, being busy and everything, and he won all 4 rounds, but it was nothing special. No knockdowns. He didn't get, he didn't stop the guy or nothing like that. It was a workmanlike performance. That's basically what his fight was. And before that, there was a super welterweight fight between Anthony Fowler and Rico Mueller, and that was a fight that ended in a KO, 8-round KO for Fowler. It's funny when you see some of these fighters and they can look good in one fight and then you bring them out another time and they don't look as good. It was something weird happening on that DAZN broadcast because prior to the fight, Reggie, they have a pre-fight show that they do on DAZN. Man, it was raining cats and dogs. And they were under a tent. Tony Bellew and that other guy, the black dude that was doing a pre-fight show. And forgive me, I just don't remember the guy's name. But they were under a tent that they set up. And they were talking about the fights card, pre-fight show. It was raining cats and dogs. And then suddenly, like with 15 minutes to go, maybe before air, when the show was getting ready to start, it stopped raining. But when it was pouring down in all that area where the people were going to be sitting to watch the fights. And of course, the ring itself had a big canopy over it, where if it rained while they were fighting, the fighters would have been dry, but the people would not have been dry. They would have been drenched because, the canopy didn't extend out like that, especially when they showed an aerial view of how it was set up. So the rain stopped just in time for the fights, but it was coming down like a son of a gun before the fight card started. I don't know how that happened, man. It's like somebody put in some prayers and did some Indian rain dancing or something. It's like, dude, it just, how does that happen like that? I remember a story of when Ali defeated George Foreman in Africa. That fight was outside with a canopy over the ring. And there was a threatening storm that whole week, But on the fight night, Ali and Foreman came into the ring. They had their fight. And Ali celebrated, the championship victory in the ring. And he was, saluting the people and stuff. And as they were walking back to the dressing room, it started pouring down. So that night, same thing. It was like the rain clouds held up until the fight was over. As soon as the fight was over, it started pouring raining. And then when they were leaving the area where they had the fight, where the stadium was made for the fight, there were people standing along the roadside holding up their children and stuff, trying to get a look at Ali and celebrating him and screaming Ali, Boumaye. But they were standing out there in the downpour of rain. Reggie and chat, and it was something like out of a movie. Even when they made the Ali movie, they did never recapture that moment, but it was something so poignant that it's like the heavens cried, you know, Ali winning his title back or something. It was really dramatic. And there are people who were there who recall that and that historical moment, and they often talk about it and how, you know, it was like a tear-jerking moment because Ali took time out and was shaking the people's hands and kissing the children and stuff like that as he was leaving the stadium. It was something to behold. But that rain held up during the fight. And if it rained like that, people would not have been sitting there. They would have scattered because the downpour was so heavy. It was like a monsoon. You can't make this stuff up, man. And that's how it was for the DAZN card this evening.
And see, I don't know why Eddie Hearn likes doing those outdoor arena fights, especially in the UK. Probably have to ask Lazzy, but I think the UK is known for rain, right? It's known to soak the areas out there. Like, fights should be fought inside of enclosed arenas, and he runs the same risk trying to put on what's that cat, AJ and Usyk. And what is that going into? What month are they fighting in this month? When is Usyk and AJ fighting?
I think they're fighting in September, I think. Don't hold me to that because I really haven't been following AJ. But I know the fight is coming up. It's not in August. I think it's in September.
And those could kind of be, well, we know the weather's probably going to get cooler, and it could be a rainy season around that time period. So he makes some foolish decisions. He's just looking to pack in, get 90,000 people or whatnot. But he forgets about the weather. Like, and then the ring sits right in the center of this stadium where the roof is open. But he does things without thinking. But he is young and new to the game. But this, like, what you bring that up, it's like the third event he done put on where it's been heavy drizzle. Even the one he fought over in, I think that one he fought in this battle on the dunes there was rain going on. I remember one fight where they were wearing plastic over their feet. But he's bad when it comes to, he picks fights, don't pay attention to almanac information.
Well, I think also he tries to fight where taxation on the dollar is not, you know, a big issue or whatever. That's what he is all about. You know, this guy is about the bottom line, man, big time. I don't know. I just don't like him as, you know, what he represents in the sport and who he has been in the sport. He's always in other people's business and everything. And it's like, I don't know. But there was a fight on the card, Reggie, that opened up their show. And this was Advil Yildirim taking on Jack Cullen. And this fight, let me just get this out of the way. It was an IBF International super middleweight fight. Now, didn't he just lose to Canelo Alvarez? But he's back fighting for the IBF super middleweight international title. How does that happen? I don't know. But anyway, Reggie, in the first round of this fight, Yildirim threw more punches in the first round of this fight than he threw in 3 rounds against Canelo Alvarez. Meaning that, you know, he fought Canelo with like his arms were tied. He threw that fight with Canelo. And I say that and I'll double down on it, because he didn't go in there and try to win against Canelo. He actually threw the fight. He just laid down for Canelo. This fight, this kid Cullen was very tall. I think maybe like 6'3" or something. had very lanky build, long jab, was boxing pretty good, was touching Yildirim up. I mean, hit the uppercuts he was hitting him with. Had he stuck with that, going to the body and bringing those punches up and under, he probably could have dropped Yildirim and stop him, you know. But Yildirim fought through that, and Canelo didn't hit the guy like this guy hit him, and he just fell apart against Canelo. It's like it was so phony and fake to me, his fight and performance against Canelo, that I am almost 1,000% certain that he went into that fight with no intention of trying to win. But on this night, in the first round of this fight, he threw more punches in the first round than he did in 3 against Canelo. And I thought it was a sad state of affairs that they would bring this guy back and he performed like that. And then you see, you know, like him tonight actually out there giving it a go. He still lost, unanimous decision, but it's like he got his butt whooped. But the Canelo fight, it just, remember, people were talking. It was like, oh, this guy hasn't even thrown a punch. He's standing there with his hands up, his guard up over his face and stuff. And then he goes down a couple times and the fight is over just like that. I mean, come on, man. But, you know, tonight he fought, but he still got his butt kicked in a different manner by a different person. But I didn't like what I saw of Yildirim. Not at all.
Yeah, he came in there as Canelo's homeboy. Him and Canelo ex-sparring partners. He know he's not a star, so he went there to lay down. And Eddie Hearn probably can convince him to do that. Say, you lay down, we give you the biggest payday you ever had, and I'll put you on more fight cards. And that's why he's on another Eddie Hearn production, coming up off of a loss. He did exactly what they expected him to do, lay down. Then Eddie Hearn laces up another one of his fighters in Billy Joe Saunders. But that's my thoughts. Or Billy Joe may be a Frank Warren fighter, but however it went, he laced another UK guy up with a fight. But Canelo is the order of the day for Eddie Hearn. And Yildirim's just over there to play the part. It's probably part of the agreement. Give Yildirim, in a loss, give Yildirim 2 other fights or some crap like that. That's probably what was stipulated in that contract. Just like they tried to do with Sergey Kovalev. But that's all I got.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because, you know, there are fighters who will give it a go. Like we saw Jonathan Rice come out there tonight. And I don't like when we get, I guess the word for it is like cheated. When we get cheated by the powers that be in boxing. These guys know exactly what they're doing, and I'm talking about the promoters and everything. They know exactly what they're doing when they run these shams of a show. But at least the PBC fight cards were good fights. We saw a lot of pounding of the flesh. We saw knockdowns. We saw knockouts and stoppages. Hey, man, for a Saturday night of boxing, you know, and on regular TV, that was good stuff. So I'm happy with that, you know. But I think this whole C19 thing where we saw this, it affected both cards. It affected the DAZN card with the Conor Benn fight with Adrian Granados, and it affected the Kofi card because Kofi was expected to take on Gerald Washington. So, you know, it's interesting that this went that way. And by the way, I had a poll in the chat for this evening's show, Reggie, where I said, who will win when Ben and Granados finally square off? And 55% have selected Conor Benn being victorious when they do finally fight, and Adrian Granados received 45%, and that's from 33 votes taken in for the poll, and I appreciate everybody that wanted to vote on that and did do so. We try to make the chat engaged by bringing some polls in for these shows like this, and it's great to see people participate in that. So, but yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much what we have for this evening, Reggie, on those cards, because we went right on through that. You got any final thoughts or anything you want to leave the people with?
Yes, sir, man. Another great night of boxing, man, and AJ McKee and the MMA. Great night of combat. And also, man, salute to Keyshawn Davis over there in Tokyo doing this thing in the Olympics, knocking off the number 1 seed from out of France. Keyshawn rocked the dude, getting the stoppage in that fight, advancing to the quarterfinals. See how far he can do. A couple of U.S. fighters been knocked off, but Keyshawn's there, been putting on some brilliant performances in here. He's been really showcasing his talent and looking good. And hopefully he doesn't have to deal with any of these, what the Olympics are known for with the poor judging, but it looks like they got a spotlight over there on judging in the sport of boxing. Boxing comes under a lot of pressure from the Olympics committee because of corruption. So hopefully they do right by these fighters, and Keyshawn keeps on pressing forward and putting on those impressive performances he's been putting on over there. And I'm also tripping with because this ain't too much of a highlighted Olympics, but looking at the protocol of how serious things are now. Basically what the Olympics is almost similar to when boxing returned, about being in a box. There's no one in attendance at those events over there. So it shows you the precautions and the seriousness of this C-19 thing. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah, man, it's interesting. You think that kid got a chance to bring home a medal?
I think so, man. I think he may end up pulling off this gold.
Yeah, that's what I'm alluding to. It's like, because I saw his last fight. L-Dub had hit me up and let me know. I think it was on Tuesday when he was fighting, and I got a chance to see the third round because I missed the first 2 rounds. And he looked pretty good. Yeah. I wish him well. Some of the women have taken some terrible losses there, although I did see one of the women win a fight when I saw Keyshawn win that same day. But yeah, it's been a tough go in this particular Olympics for the U.S., man. And it shows a lot about the country and how they really, need to get back on top of things in a proper manner. All of this separatism and everything that came down through the pipeline of that past administration has really affected the country negatively. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like unity when people pull together and show proper representation from where you come from and everything, and support one another with it. And I don't think there's been another time in history that, even though the Olympics have been there and everything, that we've seen it like what it is right now. Because people are just kind of like going through motions, but they're not doing it with pride and dignity and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we got to get back on track. We got to get back on track. I mean, everything has always had, problems, but there have always been come together moments as well. And right now, we sorely need come together moments in every aspect of our existence here, because that's the only way that we can forge ahead is together. We can't forge ahead by being separated and divided and fighting and, killing and all of that kind of thing. So, and the Olympics are the one time that you have a chance to show another nation what you're made of. And, we're faltering, but there's reasons for that. But it doesn't mean that it can't be corrected. but people need to get back on board of what's really important, man. And, you know, those are my thoughts. That's what I have to say about that. So.
Perfectly stated, OG. Perfectly stated.
Yeah. So, man, this has been another post-fight show where we got myself in boxing conversation with Reggie Owens. We did the PBC fights that were on FS1 as well as Fox. And we did the DAZN. We went over the DAZN cards. And I want to thank everybody that tuned in this evening to check us out. If you didn't smash the like button when you came in, please do it on your way out. We are looking to do bigger and better things as we go forward. And we'll be back next week to bring you another post-fight show as we got some more Fox cards taking place. And Reggie, my man, Imantas Stanionis, is fighting next week. I think he's taking on Collazo. So I'll be ready. You know, that's my boy. So we'll be looking forward to that one next week. So
yes, sir. I'm looking forward to that as well.
So, yeah, this is Stormy B, man. We're going to sign on off. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Peace to everybody and remain safe out there. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.